so happy we alive.
That I posted just the other day of criticizing and criticizing hardly the word for it, critiquing, deconstructing an article in the National Post, which is a really great newspaper. I think it's better than anything as a newspaper published in the United States. The National Post is editorialized in favor of the legalization of marijuana, and yet they had an article in it that was so full of errors, errors not based on my interpretation of things, but based on U.S. and Canadian government data. In other words, an RCMP officer, for example, said that 70% of the marijuana grown in British Columbia is exported to the United States. The RCMP's own website says that there is not sufficient data to support the notion that 50 to 60% of it is exported to the United States. Nobody knows. That BC Bud is another big thing. BC Bud is so potent. Well, here we are in BC, folks. BC Bud is, the Canadian indoors is remarkably like indoors anyplace else in the world. The idea that that growing weed indoors from seeds that come from all over the world is going to be different in Canada than it was any place else is simply absurd. Canadian electricity is the same as electricity every place. Electric lights are the same. The seeds come from whether it's Mark Emery here or Holland or other people around the world. The seeds are the same any place else. You can get them, and in fact the matter is, I think that the best bud in the world is grown in the Bay Area of California. Really? Now, if you want to find consistently good weed, Holland is the place to do it, because you can walk into a coffee shop and pull out a menu and order. But
what's the difference between Holland and Vancouver culturally or weed-wise?
The key difference is the separation of the markets. In other words, coffee shops, where you can go in and in Holland you can go into a coffee shop and ask for a menu and order whatever different kinds of cannabis they have, and it gives you, obviously just like restaurants or any place else, you get better at some place than others, but you can go in and pick and choose what you want. If you know the right places to go, you can get really good weed on a consistent basis and know what you're getting. Here in Vancouver, because you don't have open sales, people get whatever there's around. Now, obviously, if you know somebody, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, then it's easier to get. It's like the same place as any place else. But if you have a connection, you have a good connection wherever you are. But here, a good connection will get you a greater variety than other places. But
you can't just walk in and buy it.
No, you can't walk in any place here, and even the places there are a few places here that I can't tell you about that have house dealers, and that does not, and Blunt Brothers and the New Amsterdam do not have house dealers. That you get whatever they've got, and so this is.
But they have good bud up here, I've heard.
Well, they do have good bud up here.
And you don't go to jail.
That's the key. That's a very nice difference. Is you will not go to jail for personal possession of weed. In fact, they don't. Generally speaking, don't even jail growers up here, because they pick a number. There's some place between 5,000 and 20,000 people running grow ops in British Columbia, and most of those being scattered around the greater Vancouver area. And so they bust about 500-600 of them a year, and so maximum they're getting 10%, and more likely they're getting say 3 or 4% of the grow ops here, and they can't begin to prosecute all the people, so they just simply go in and tear everything out and make a mess of things, and of course take the plants, but don't charge anybody, so there's nothing that anybody can say about anything, and that's people aren't going to complain you didn't arrest me, but they, on the other hand, they can't complain you didn't really have a good warrant either, or you made a mess out of the house or whatever. So but it's still better than. Still better not to be arrested.
Back when you were dealing in U.S. politics and marijuana politics a little bit. What did you think of? I'm just curious what your take on William Bennett is. Somebody who's lauded as a superhero and gets hundreds of thousands of dollars for lecture.
Well, he's gotten rich. I call him the millionaire hypocrisy entrepreneur. Peter,
wait a minute, the millionaire hypocrisy entrepreneur?
Yes. He's gotten rich in the hypocrisy business. I mean, here's a guy who my friend Peter McWilliams called him the most evil man in America.
Really? Well, he's the author of Morality Tales. I mean, the Standard. He gave the
Virtue.
He gave the commencement speech at Notre Dame.
Well, the church has been having a problem.
But anyway, what did Peter McWilliams say? I'm sorry.
Well, no, Peter's view of Bennett is that he was of course, that's a large sweepstake, saying the most evil man in America. But I think I've heard.
I mean, really, he really coalesced that.
No, I think that
anti.
I think basically no. I wouldn't give him that much credit. He was Bush, his first drug czar, and then as soon. I mean, again, a measure of the cynicism of things. Here's Bush's first drug czar who makes all kinds of promises and how he's so committed to things, and after a couple of years sees it's all a fiasco and leaves, and then Bush replaces Bennett, who is a brilliant ideologue, with Governor Martinez of Florida, who's a total and complete buffoon. And no one took him seriously, and so the second half of the Bush administration, the drug czar was a complete idiot. And Bennett, as I say, is evil, but he's certainly not dumb. He's quite smart enough to know better. Mm-hmm. But the thing about Bennett is that I've heard him make a speech in which he got up and called for a wave of arrests. And it's, for most people, even prohibitionists, hardcore prohibitionists, will consider arrest and imprisonment to be a cost of prohibition. They will be in fact, they're very reluctant to admit it. Nobody's arrested for marijuana use. There's nobody in jail for marijuana use. That's a party line. So they will deny it. Bennett revels in it. Bennett talks about the fact that they have to make consequences, because for the most marijuana users aren't harmed by marijuana use, so we will harm them. And this is why Peter called him evil.
So people not getting housing because of marijuana problem.
Losing your drive. All the so-called ancillary penalties. In fact, this is another area that most people are totally unaware of. Is that about half the states you can lose your driver's license for marijuana possession, even possession in your home, and it's federal law, of course, that students will lose their student loans if they're arrested on marijuana charges.
Yeah, that incidentally is an Indiana.
Mark Souder, yes. Mark Souder is such a buffoon. To give you an example of just one thing of what a buffoon Mark Souder is. He goes to the Netherlands at, I think, the invitation of some prohibitionists. They give him a tour of the red light district, which, of course, is always the thing that everybody wants to see there, especially if they're prohibitionists, so they can go around and be shocked by seeing prostitutes that are indoors as opposed to standing on the streets as in Washington, D.C. And then he announces that they have no moral basis for their drugs policy because the Dutch don't attend church the way Americans do.
I remember something about that.
This ignorant buffoon does not know that the Netherlands has the highest rate of church attendance in Western Europe. It's about 35% as opposed to 40% in the U.S. That the most prohibitionist country in Europe, Sweden, has the lowest church attendance rate of any country in Europe. The UK, the second most prohibitionist country, has an almost vanishingly small level of church attendance.